have we entered sort of a stalemate situation?
Well, that's exactly right. That is the concern, that after the dramatic advances that Ukrainian forces made over the autumn, things are now getting bogged down. And of course, the longer this war drags on, the more it favors Russia. It gives Russia time to bring into play these hundreds of thousands of men that it's mobilized, with another mobilization wave expected across Russia soon. So the tanks that are being demanded by most Western supporters to be delivered to Ukraine are actually intended to break this deadlock and to ensure that Ukraine can again push forward in the spring and preempt any Russian offensive. And as you said, it is Germany that is the block on this. Germany not only refusing to supply its own Leopard 2 advanced tanks to Ukraine, but also putting a block on other users of the same model across Europe. So this announcement that we've had from the UK now that they'll be sending Challenger 2s is symbolic, and it's one of the many steps that Western countries have taken to try to demolish Germany's excuses for not helping.
It's interesting to see how Britain is seen in Ukraine. I've just seen reports within the last hour. Boris Johnson has been in Kiev. He's been given an honorary citizenship of Kiev by Vitaly Klitschko, the mayor of Kiev. And he said these words this morning. This is Boris Johnson speaking. I say focus on Ukraine and not Putin. Putin is not going to use nuclear weapons. What we must do is support Zelensky and Ukraine. Give them tanks. There is nothing to be lost. Keir Giles, as an expert in Russia, do you agree with that assessment from Boris Johnson, that there is no way that Russia will use nuclear weapons?
The way people are describing it who have looked closely at the possibility is a non-zero chance. In other words, it's not completely impossible to rule out the last action of a madman in the Kremlin, but there's a big difference between what Russia wants us to think about when it would use nuclear weapons and when it actually would. And the problem is, for a long time, people have been confusing Russia's nuclear rhetoric and bravado and intimidation with what Russia actually thinks about when you can use nuclear weapons. The problem is that has put a huge break on supporters of Ukraine, not just Germany, but also the United States, providing the support that Ukraine actually needs as the front line of this war between Russia and the West. And it's meant that they are deterring themselves from actually providing what's needed to end the war, because they have this fear that has been stoked by Russia of some kind of nuclear incident.
Now, clearly the United Kingdom's decision to send tanks isn't going to shift things by ourselves, but what the government seems to be intending to do is nudge other countries to follow suit. Britain sort of being the spearhead here, where more can follow afterwards. Do you think it will change the assessments, particularly in Berlin, where Chancellor Scholz has been very reticent to send extra support?
It's a step in a process. It's not the first one, and Chancellor Scholz has made it clear it's now not going to be the last one, because as Western countries demolish all of these excuses that Germany is putting forward for not doing the right thing, Germany comes up with more. Now that Western tanks have been supplied, so Germany no longer has the excuse that it doesn't want to be the only country supplying Western tanks, they're saying, oh no, they have to be American. And that's just the latest in a long phase of new excuses that Germany is coming up with. So the situation at the moment is Germany's demanding that the US does the same, and all of this is likely to be decided at a meeting of the donor countries supporting Ukraine that's happening tomorrow in Germany, where you would hope behind closed doors there is going to be some kind of showdown between the rest of the West and Germany, trying to get Germany finally to do the right thing and unlock all of this support that Ukraine so desperately needs.